Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope I'm audible and visible, and I hope you are also awake. That is more important. Great, great, great. Uh, let's wait, give others also a minute to join, and then we'll begin our discussion. Shahbaz, what is this current situation? These AC. Elaborate further, Shahbaz. What is these AC? Oh, these acts. Current situation. I will discuss the act first. And what's the current situation? Don't worry. We have been covering right up to what has been happening in the last 7-10 days. So even the examples under PILs that I gave, standard examples, but the recent examples that are all of last 1 year, in fact, a few in the last 5-6 months. Okay, let's begin now. We have sufficient quorum. So now the Tribunal Reforms Act 2021. So initially, the Parliament, or rather the executive, the government, brought an ordinance, and that ordinance was supposed to make some modifications with respect to the functioning of tribunals in our country. Now, what were those modifications in the ordinance? What you will see right now in the act were all brought through an ordinance. Now, what did the ordinance, which later on became an act, said? Number one, with the Tribunal Reforms Act 2021, certain existing appellate tribunals no longer exist. They have been dissolved or removed. Okay. And all the pending cases before those tribunals, they have been transferred to the high courts. So certain kinds of tribunals have been removed. For example, Airport Appellate Tribunal, the Appellate Board under Trademarks Act, Authority of Advanced Ruling AAR, or the Film Certification Appellate Tribunal FCAT. So whenever you get any kind of certificate, so I hope you're aware that when you want to release any movie for public exhibition, that is in a theater, there is a law called Cinematograph Act, under which it is mandatory to get a certificate from a competent authority. So you must have seen that in that particular, every movie, it starts with a certificate that is displayed. That is basically the certificate given by CBFC, Central Board for Film Certification. So they give you various ratings based on the content. So you have the most basic rating, that is universal. It is meant for everybody. Kids movies. Then universal under adult supervision. Salman Khan, Shah Rukh Khan, Mahesh Babu, Surya, these kind of movies, right? Then you have adult movies, Imran Hashmi kind of movies, or movies which have too much of violence, too much of no gross language, in the sense that they may contain the movies may contain foul language, abusive words, etc. Then you have some movies which are restricted, which are meant for specific audience only. Now, if you don't get the desired certificate, you can approach Film Certification Appellate Tribunal. But now it no longer exists because the government said any which way people are always moving to high court only. Nobody is going to these tribunals. People go to high courts. So why do we need to have these tribunals? So abolished. 9 different types of tribunals were abolished. Then one more very important change that took place was the appointment of chairpersons and the members. So earlier, the appointment was being done by the president in consultation, if you see here, in consultation with the CJI or the governor. But now the appointment is going to be done by the president only, but on the recommendation of a committee. Search cum selection committee. So this committee will recommend names. And this search cum selection committee will consist of the Chief Justice of India with a casting vote. That is, he cannot vote initially. He can only vote in case of tie. Okay? 2 secretaries nominated by the central government. Number 3, retired Supreme Court judge, retired High Court Chief Justice, or the outgoing chairperson, and the secretary of the ministry under which the tribunal is constituted. This committee will recommend names. So you see, 2 secretaries are there of Government of India, IAS officers, right? So they will recommend names, and for every vacancy in these tribunals like CAT, DRT, TDSAT, NCLAT, all these tribunals, any vacancy that is there, for every vacancy, 2 names will be forwarded to the government, that is to the president, for appointment. And the government will take a decision, preferably within 3 months, preferably. Not mandatory, it's optional. If the government wants, it may. If it does not want, it will not. That's the, hilarious part of this judgment, this act. That what is the point then? If it is not mandatory for you to take the or follow the recommendations in a time-bound manner, then what's the point? Anyway, moving on, some more changes. Minimum age, a very unique concept has been introduced now. Minimum age for being appointed as a chairperson or a member is now 50 years. There is no minimum age for High Court judge, no minimum age for Supreme Court judge, but we have a very unique situation where there is now a minimum age to be a member of tribunal, that to 50 years. What is so magical that happens at the age of 50? We don't know. Then, term of office. So earlier, if you remember, the term of office, the old provision was 5 years or 68, 5 or 65. Now, the term of office has been reduced to 4 years, but maximum age has been increased to 70 years. Same for members. And very important, they are now eligible for reappointment. Meaning what? If you perform very well, help the government, give awards in favor of government, reappointment. That's there. Now, when this was originally brought as a bill, right, in the form of an ordinance, before being brought as a bill, this ordinance was challenged in the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court cancelled certain provisions of the ordinance. Like this provision was cancelled earlier. Like this provision, both of them cancelled earlier. And even this preferably word was cancelled earlier. So there was a court case called Madras Bar Association case 2021. Okay. In that case, the Supreme Court had cancelled certain provisions of the Constitution, of the Act. This was a case, Madras Bar Association 2021. Okay. Now, please understand this point. If you have brought an ordinance and some provisions of your ordinance are cancelled by the Supreme Court, do you think it is logical to bring an act or bring a bill with all the provisions intact? Of course not. Some provisions had been cancelled by the Supreme Court when they had brought an ordinance. So, of course, it means that you should not bring those same provisions again. Don't. What's this nonsense? Those provisions have been cancelled by the court. Why are you bringing those provisions again in the form of an act? Don't do it. But the government paid no heed at all to the Supreme Court's judgment. I'll reiterate. See, this Tribunal Reforms Act is right now an act, but before this was brought as an act, it was originally brought as an ordinance. Okay, as an ordinance. That ordinance had all these provisions. Some provisions were cancelled by Supreme Court in this judgment. Okay. Now you know very well, when any ordinance is brought, it has to be again tabled in the parliament when it assembles. When in the monsoon session, the parliament assembled, the ordinance was tabled in the form of a bill and it was passed, which became known as the Tribunal Reforms Act 2021. Ideally, the government knew that some provisions like this, they had been earlier deemed to be unconstitutional by the Supreme Court and had been cancelled. Then the government should have removed those provisions and then brought the bill or ordinance in the form of bill. But the government did not remove those provisions and it brought the original provisions in the form of a bill and got it passed also. This has again been put under debate, and this was again challenged in the Supreme Court that despite Supreme Court cancelling certain provisions, the government has again brought those provisions, this time through an act called Tribunals Reforms Act. So this matter is actually pending in the court right now. Okay, the Supreme Court is yet to decide whether the Tribunal Reforms Act 2021 is unconstitutional for reenacting provisions that were struck down in the Madras Bar Association case for violating the independence of the judiciary. I hope this statement is clear to everybody. Okay, so this matter is currently pending in the court. Pending what? Pending the decision that needs to be taken. That how dare the government bring the same ordinance again, this time in the form of a bill, and get it passed when the Supreme Court had clearly made certain changes and had cancelled certain elements of that ordinance. Are we clear on this point? And there are some genuine concerns also. Concern number one: whenever you reduce the tenure of any member anywhere, short tenure, what happens? That person can be changed quickly. And now you are making them eligible for reappointment. Meaning what? If I perform very well, my judgments are in the favor of the government, okay, then I will be reappointed, right? Because I am giving very nice awards. I'm always favoring the government. Okay. Number two, there is a provision of minimum age of 50 years. What is this 50 years? What is so magical? Why minimum 50 years? Why not 45? Why not 40? Interestingly, at the High Court level, the convention is that you become eligible to become a High Court judge as a custom convention when you attain the age of 45. It's not a rule, it's just a custom. So if you are fit to be a part of High Court at the age of 45 only, what is this rule that you have to be 50 years old to be a member of tribunal? Makes no sense. This is like a restrictive qualification. I hope you know what is restrictive qualification, because you must have revised your panchayat lectures. And finally, if you abolish certain tribunals and transfer their existing pending cases to high courts, will it not increase the burden on high courts? That's also there. So there are these three issues pertaining to the current Tribunal Reforms Act. And for this note, I hope any person who has the most basic understanding will understand what is mentioned here. You just have to put in the effort to read the statement. It is self-explanatory. The Supreme Court is yet to decide, meaning Supreme Court has not decided yet. What has it not decided? Whether the Tribunals Reforms Act, the act we are discussing right now, is unconstitutional. On what ground? For reenacting, meaning what? Enacting again, bringing again those provisions that were struck down, cancelled by the Supreme Court in the Madras Bar Association case 2021 for violating the independence of the judiciary or the tribunals. So as I explained here, these provisions which were earlier cancelled by Supreme Court when an ordinance was brought, how could the government bring all the provisions again in the form of a bill and get it passed? If Supreme Court has cancelled some provision and deemed it unconstitutional, because Supreme Court has a right to do it, to uphold the constitution, then it is very logical that the government should not bring those provisions in the form of a law. That has been done. I hope now the point is clear and this problem is clear. This matter is pending in the court, and unless the court decides on this matter, we'll have to also sit and watch, see as to what is the situation here and what happens, how the reality unfolds. Okay. Why 4-year cancelled? As I said, from 5 years, tenure is brought down to 4 years. Why? Why are you making the tenure shorter? If anybody's tenure becomes short, right, then that person, the independence is taken away. That is why Supreme Court over the years has constantly said we should have fixed tenure for people and don't reduce tenure of people randomly. In 1987 only, there was a judgment called Sampath Kumar case where Supreme Court had said that important constitutional and statutory bodies, their members and chairpersons should have a longer tenure, which gives them security. Short tenures means quick replacement, right? And when government can replace you, then you are more likely to favor the government to get reappointed. till the Supreme Court gives judgment, the new provisions will have to be followed. Okay? Only if the Supreme Court cancels the new provisions, we'll remember the old provisions. Are we clear? So, Rani, Shalu, Sushri, doubts hopefully have been cleared. Now, Neil, sir, is this not violation of separation of powers? Why violation? Not a violation. I mean, Supreme Court has the mandate to uphold the Constitution. If I take any step which is against the Constitution, then Supreme Court has a right to interfere. So the whole point is that Supreme Court is only upholding the Constitution. That's it. Okay. So that is all as far as the tribunals are concerned, and we are done with the judiciary. Okay. So, as we say, before ending every discussion, we need to also address the concern of important articles. So, first up, what chapters to study from Lakshmikant? In case you are following Lakshmikant, for a more comprehensive understanding, or whatever reasons you love the book, you can read the following chapters. Chapter 26, 27, 28, 29. 26, 27, 28, 29. Chapter 34, 35, 36. These many topics covered under the topics we have seen so far. Important articles. So I'll write the article and I would expect you to know what the article contained. So Article 124 contains provisions of appointment, removal, etc. Then Article 129 is important, which is Court of Records. Article 130 becomes important because it deals with seat of Supreme Court. Then Article 131 is actually important because it is the original jurisdiction. Then 32, 33, 34 articles, even if you don't remember, no problem. But Article 136 is important, that is special leave petition. Article 137, revisory jurisdiction. Then Article 139 and 139A, increasing the jurisdiction and also transferring the cases. Then 142, that is the absolute power of Supreme Court. 145, which is the rules of Supreme Court. Then for High Court, 215, that is Court of Records, right? Then 217, the appointment. Then 233. 233 is for district courts. Same for 234. Then 121, conduct of judges cannot be discussed in the legislature. Then 323 capital A, 323 capital B for tribunals. These are the articles that you should know and the content of these articles. Apart from it, important cases, all the judges' case, that is case 1, case 2, case 3, in fact, even the 4th judge's case, plus the 4th judge's case. Okay. Then, as far as the PILs are concerned, try to remember as many cases as you can. I have given plenty of examples under PILs, as many as possible. It will be of great help when writing the answer. Then L. Chandrakumar case under the tribunals 1997, and what? The Madras Bar Association case. That is of 2021. So these are the important articles to be remembered. Shalu, Article 129 is Court of Records. Okay. Now let's look at this question also, a very simple, easy question. How far do you agree with the view that tribunals curtail the jurisdiction of ordinary courts? So how far do you agree that the tribunals curtail the jurisdiction of ordinary courts? In view of the above, discuss the constitutional validity and the competency of tribunals in India. So this question has three parts. Now, of course, you can address this question in the form of intro, body, conclusion. But since this question has three parts, there is an alternative to address this question. You can also address this question in three paragraphs. Para 1, answer 1. Para 2, this. Para 3, this. That can also be a very unique way to express yourself. Because every time if you keep on writing as a intro, body, conclusion structure, then it gets boring. So be innovative and creative. So in the first paragraph, explain whether the tribunals curtail the jurisdiction of ordinary courts or not, because now people can go to tribunals also. So what we know as, there's a phrase called tribunalization of judiciary. So now people are moving to tribunals more and more than going to the courts. So you can say yes, to a large extent it has happened. And however, ultimately you can always appeal in the High Court and Supreme Court. So it cannot comprehensively be said that the rise of tribunals has curtailed the powers of the courts. It has only helped the powers of the court, helped the courts in unburdening them. First thing. Second paragraph, discuss the constitutional validity, whether the constitution provides for it, how, why, mention that. Mention here part 14A, articles 323A and 323B. Okay. And the third paragraph, there you mention the competency, meaning advantages and also some challenges. That's also an alternative to addressing your question. So now you know we may have different structures sometimes depending on how the question has been asked to you. So how you address the question may also change. That is why we have to be more innovative, right? So always following the same structure may also create a sense of monotony in the mind of the evaluator. So be innovative in that sense. I hope this point is clear. That's it. We are done with the judiciary, which also brings us to this point where we have covered a very large portion of our syllabus. Legislature, executive, judiciary, all done. The three organs are done now. So now it will help us in a more comprehensive understanding of every other possible issue. Okay. So moving on. By the way, I hope you are writing all these answers and other questions also from the previous years. We have recorded videos. Please watch those videos, write answers, send them to Target IAS. I hope this is happening, right? Because eventually sitting and attending this class and not answering questions will make no sense. Now we'll move on and begin our discussion on elections. Sushri, sir, if you mention the names of cases, explain it. No, just mention the names of cases with 2-3 words on what the case was about. That's it. You can't explain the case story. Nobody's asking you that. First paragraph, agree or not? You tell me, Shalu. Why should I spoon feed you? You tell me. You also know the topic, right? Why don't you tell me whether the statement, how far do you agree? You tell me what to write. I've already said what to write, but I want you to tell me what can be the approach. What do you think? Do the tribunals or have the tribunals actually taken away the court's power? Sayadri, Supreme Court advocates on record 2015. What is that? That is called the fourth judge's case. We have mentioned it there. Fourth judge's case. Guys, you just have to revise. Things are mentioned here. Okay, don't worry. This is what is called the Supreme Court advocates on record case, popularly the fourth judge's case. Oh, you agree? No, Shalu, I beg to differ here. Not really. Because eventually the tribunals, whatever awards they give, they will always uh, end up in the High Court and Supreme Court. So they have not really curtailed the power. It may seem to be so, but that's not true. That's what you write. In fact, they have helped the judiciary. They have reduced the burden. Right? That's it. Okay. Done. Now let's move on to the bar associations are what is an association? Tomorrow you can form an association. Anybody can form an association. Bar association is basically a group of people who are registered practitioners of law and they have formed a collective group to ensure collective rights. How is the election taking place amongst themselves? Who becomes the chairperson? That is not for us to know. There are hundreds of associations in our country: medical association, engineer association, IS association. We can't know all these. We have no interest in knowing all these things. So bar association is just a group of people who are controlling or regulating the lawyers in the country at various levels. Okay. So we have Supreme Court Bar Association, High Court Bar Association, etc. Right. So like medical association, the medical association controls the conduct of our doctors. Same way. And also tries to push for their rights, etc. Suraj, tribunals have curtailed powers of district courts and not High Court or Supreme Court. What powers of district courts? Most of these powers are beyond the district courts, right? So if there is any aspect pertaining to, say, violation of your service conditions, you'll go to High Courts. Why will you go to district court? If you're a central government employee, you will not go to district court. So district courts did not really have authority over all of these things. In fact, most of these things, right? So ideally, largely it has not curtailed any kind of power. Okay. Coming to now, elections. Now, before we begin our discussion on elections, we need to know a couple of articles or provisions pertaining to elections. 4 articles: 327, 328, 325, 326. First up is Article 327. Very simple. So, Parliament is the competent authority to make laws for in connection to matters relating to elections. So elections to the parliament or the state legislature, meaning MP, MLA, MLC, who will make laws for all matters dealing with the election of these people? The parliament, of course. The big question is, can the state government make laws? Yes, of course. Even the state legislature can make laws on matters dealing with elections of MLAs and MLCs, that is state legislatures only, not parliament. Also, only on those topics where the parliament has not made a law. For example, let's say there are some laws made, election laws have been made by the parliament for dealing with election of MP, for dealing with election of MLA. Are we clear so far? Let us say some election laws have been made, like RPA, etc., has been made by the parliament to deal with election of MP as well as MLAs. Topic number 1, topic number 2, topic 3, topic 4, topic 5. 5 topics laws are made for MPs. The same parliament has also made laws on topic 1, topic 2, topic 4, topic 5. But they have not made any law for topic 3. There exists a law for the MPs, but no law for MLAs. So, the state legislature is allowed to make laws on these topics. Here they can make laws. So, state legislature can make laws. In short, just understand one statement. State legislatures can also make laws on matters dealing with elections. Okay? They can also make laws on matters dealing with elections, but only for the state elections. That is for MPs and MLAs and MLCs. Okay? Two basic articles, 327, 328. Now, uh, I think you must be aware of something called the Morley Minto reforms. Remember? History, school days. So, Britishers, you know, that was a part of divide and rule. Though a lot of people say India was already fragmented. So, what was there to divide and rule? Britishers only took the advantage of the existing fault lines. But that is best left for a different debate. But Britishers, what they did was, they said, let's do one thing. We are going to provide voting rights based on religion. Meaning, in a particular area, not everybody gets the right to vote. We will only give certain people the right to vote. That is what is called separate electorate. What is electorate? Electorate basically means voter. So in a particular area, only Muslims can vote. In a particular area, only Hindus can vote. Only Christians can vote. That is called separate voter list. After attaining independence, we said we don't follow this nonsensical thing. Voting rights will be given to everybody. That is why we follow something called universal adult suffrage. What is that? Voting rights for all. Whether you are a Hindu or a Muslim, male or female, literate or illiterate, whatever your social status is, whatever your physical status is, whatever your economic status is, we are not worried. Everybody gets the voting right. So, in our country, you cannot create voter list on the basis of religion, race, caste, or sex, meaning gender. But we can create a voter list on the basis of other things. For example, we can create a voter list based on age. We do have it. Our voter list is based on age. Interestingly, we can create a voter list based on education also in future. That's possible because the constitution says no discrimination on voting rights, only on these 4 grounds. On other grounds, possible. So who knows? Maybe 10 years down the line, there could be a law which says that now, apart from being 18, you also have to be at least maybe an undergraduate, 10th pass, 8th pass, 5th pass. We don't know. That's possible. Second thing, Article 326. This article says that there will be something called UAF. What is UAF? Universal Adult Franchise with minimum voting age being 18. So this article says that every citizen who is otherwise qualified will be a part of voter list, meaning electoral roll. It does not say you get the right to vote. It only says you get the right to be a part of voter list. So every Indian citizen who is above the age of 18 and is otherwise not disqualified has complete authority and right to be a part of the voter list. This is Article 326. I hope this point is clear. Now, let's move on and understand the body which has been given the mandate and the task to conduct elections, the Election Commission of India. So we have the Chief Election Commissioner in the center, Mr. Rajiv Kumar, right? He's a former IAS officer of, I think, Bihar cadre. Then we have Anup Chandra Pandey, Election Commissioner of India. He is also a former IAS officer in UP cadre. And then we have the recently appointed Arun Goyal, just last year in November, also an IAS officer. So you see, if you clear the IAS examination, these are posts available to you post retirement. Look at this motivation for today, right? Clear the exam and you are set not just for the age of 60, even after 60, you can continue to enjoy, hold amazing posts, great constitutional posts. Anyway, Election Commission of India or ECI is a constitutional body which is mentioned under Article 324. This is where you find the mention of ECI. Now, first up, how are these people appointed? So, Election Commission of India, the members will be appointed by the president, subject to any parliamentary law. If the parliament makes a law, then based on that law, otherwise the president can directly appoint. So far, parliament has not made any law, so the president appoints the members of the election commission. However, in 2023, that is just recently, right, couple of months back, in the Anup Barnwal case, Supreme Court said that how can the president or the government directly appoint members? It can be biasness, right? So the Supreme Court said that from now onwards, when you want to appoint the uh, members of election commission, then we need to have a recommendation of a 3-member committee. 3-member committee is required. PM, LOP Lok Sabha, and the Chief Justice of India. This is the LOP in the Lok Sabha. Now, one more thing, you may have a doubt in your mind that, sir, we always have this post LOP Lok Sabha in various places for appointment. What if there is no LOP of Lok Sabha, like right now? So, if there is no LOP of Lok Sabha, then that person is chosen who belongs to the party which has the highest number of MPs in the opposition. So basically, we will forego the Mavlankar rule. Okay, we are going to forego the Mavlankar rule, which said at least 10% seats should belong to you. So we'll only choose that person who belongs to the party which has the highest number of seats in the opposition. Whether it is 10 seats or 100, we don't care. Okay, that's there. So this was the appointment. Now, Supreme Court has also clarified that this process of appointment via committee will only continue until the parliament enacts a law. So tomorrow the parliament can simply pass a law and take this power away from the Supreme Court. It can say no, the appointment will be done only by the president. It's possible actually. It's very, very simple. So until a law is made by the president does not just mean by the president. The recommendation will come from PM, LOP Lok Sabha and Chief Justice of India. Okay, that's it. This is the appointment. Now the composition. So mind you, this appointment is mentioned under Article 324 Clause 2. Okay. Now the composition. The election commission will have how many members? 1, 2, 10, 50, 100, 1 lakh, how many members? So that number is not fixed. The election commission shall consist of what? One chief election commissioner, mandatory, and such number of other election commissioners, if any, meaning what? 1, 2, whatever, we don't know, as the president may fix. So how many members? It can be 0 also, it can be 100 also. So composition is basically dependent on the president. And when I say president, I mean the government. Okay. So one is mandatory, but how many other commissioners? It's not mandatory. So currently, at least since 1993, we have one CEC. What is CEC? What is CEC? Chief Election Commissioner plus 2 ECs. So this is a current situation now. We have Election Commission of India as a 3-member body. Okay, 1 plus 2. As you could see in the photograph also, 1 plus 2. Aniket, who administers the election of state legislature? We'll discuss that. Same body, ECI only. Then the qualification. What is the qualification? No qualification. There is no qualification whatsoever to become the member of election commission. No qualification whatsoever. And here also, one very important and interesting provision which is there, which is very weird. I'll tell you what that is. Let us say you are made the election commissioner. I am the ruling party. If you conduct elections in an unfair manner to help me after you retire, I can give you certain benefits. I can make you some governor somewhere. I can get you some political post also, etc. Right? That is why, ideally, what should be the provision? That once you retire from the post of election commissioner, there should not be any appointment given to you in future. Because if there is scope left for you to be appointed to certain posts, then that is only going to damage or harm the independence of the body, right? That is why we say that but this is not there. So constitution has not debarred the election commissioners from further or future appointments under the government after retirement, which is wrong. They also should be barred. Because I'll give an example of CAG, Comptroller and Auditor General. These people are barred. Once you become a CAG, you are not allowed to be, you will not be allowed to hold any kind of post in future. You are debarred from holding any kind of post. That's not there, sadly. Now, conditions of service. So, it is not mentioned in the constitution, mind you. I'm repeating this. It is not mentioned in the constitution. It is mentioned in this law. Okay. The Election Commission, Conditions of Service of Election Commissioners and Transaction of Business Act 1991 says that the salary of election commissioners will be the same as Supreme Court judge. So basically, the Chief Election Commissioner and the Election Commissioner, they receive same salary. In fact, they have same power. Okay. Same powers also. Don't think that CEC has some extra power. No, no, no. Why? Because in Election Commission of India, all decisions are taken through a majority vote. So, Chief Election Commissioner has no special power. Okay? No special power over the ECI, other election commissioners. They have equal power. Same salary, equal power. And what's their term of office? 6 years or 65 years, whichever is earlier. 6 years or 65 years. That's the tenure of the election commissioners. I hope this point is clear. Of course, please don't ask me this, sir. No qualification means what? Of course, citizens only can become these people. It's a constitutional post. Goes without saying that it is always only Indian citizens. That will always be there. Constitutional posts cannot be held by foreigners, right? Anyway, then comes the point of removal. So I discussed this yesterday only, that there are some other constitutional posts where the removal is exactly the same as that of removal of the what? Supreme Court judge. What are those people? Supreme Court judges, High Court judges, Chief Election Commissioner, CAG, and the State Election Commissioner. All these 5 categories of people are removed in the same manner. And what is that manner? The manner or the process is mentioned under Judges Inquiry Act, that is special majority in the voting in the parliament, and the reason is misbehavior or incapacity. Okay. Now this removal is mentioned under Article 324 clause 5. But please let me help you understand this very important point here, that in the constitution, the removal of CEC has been made same as Supreme Court judge, not other election commissioners. So the amount of security of tenure being offered to CEC, because we know the removal process of Supreme Court judge is very difficult, the same kind of security has not been offered to other election commissioners. So in this case, nothing is mentioned in the constitution. The only thing mentioned is removal can be initiated on the recommendation of CEC. Some very important questions. Is the recommendation binding? We don't know. Voting in parliament required? We don't know. Reason, ground for removal, we don't know. We know nothing about this. That is why in this Anup Barnwal case, one more important point was it is desirable that the grounds of removal of ECs should be made similar that of CEC. Supreme Court has said that government, parliament, please make a change. Please make sure that the removal of the election commissioners should be same as a CEC. When they are getting the same salary, when they have the same kind of power, then why is the removal of chief election commissioner so sacred, so difficult, and the removal of ECs, we are completely silent on the provisions? So that's one recommendation. And also a recommendation has been that the condition of service of the election commissioners shall not be varied to his disadvantage. So this has also been said now by Supreme Court that once the election commissioners are appointed, then their salary allowances, etc., it should not be reduced while they are in office. So these are some of the very important statements made by the Supreme Court when it came to the Anup Barnwal case 2023. This was just 2 months back. Okay. Now, we are done with the Election Commission's basic conditions of service. So, let us also, at this point of time, solve a question. It was asked almost 21 years back. Let's see how many of you can get this right. I'll give you 45 seconds. Mark the answer, please. Oh, sorry. Oh, it's the first question for the day. We have today largely seen most topics which are mains oriented topics. So, done? Great. A lot of you have marked the correct answer. So, the Chief Election Commissioner and the ECs enjoy equal power, of course, but receive unequal salary. This is wrong. They receive equal salary. So, one is wrong. These two are wrong. So, two has to be correct. This statement will be correct. The CEC is entitled to same salary as Supreme Court judge. Correct. Let's check 3. The Chief Election Commissioner shall not be removed from his office except in like manner and on like grounds as judge of Supreme Court. Absolutely correct. B is the right answer. Let's read 4 also. The term of office of election commissioner is 5 years. It is not 5 years. 6 years. From the date he assumes his office or till the day he attains the age of 62. That's also wrong. It's 65. 4 is wrong. B is the right answer. Now, coming to functions performed by the Election Commission of India. The functions performed by the Election Commission of India are mentioned under, not all the functions, but at least the first 2 functions, these 2. They are mentioned under Article 324, Clause 1. Okay. Point 3. Let me just discuss all the. We'll come to point 3 also. First function, prepare and revise electoral roll. What is electoral roll? Voter list. So whose task is it to update the voter list? The task to update the voter list is with the Election Commission of India. So updating voter list means what? If somebody has turned 18, their names have to be added. Somebody has passed away, name has to be removed. Somebody moves from one place to another, they want to change their constituency, that needs to be done. So all these things are required. So a regular update is required. Okay, number one. Number two, it is the Election Commission of India which conducts and supervises elections for Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, Assembly, Council, President, Vice President. So every possible election in this country is taken care of by the Election Commission of India, except the Panchayat elections and the municipality elections. So the Panchayat and municipality elections, they are taken care of by state election commissioners. Do you remember? This is again a constitutional body, Article 243, capital K. Okay, point number 2. Point number 3, to fix the election program. This is actually mentioned under section 30 of RPA 1951. What is this section 30 of RPA? So every time, say every time the election is to be conducted in any state or center, there is a program that is followed. For example, your UPSC. So UPSC announces the list of exams for every year beforehand only, and dates are fixed. Then once the date is near, they announce the notification is released. When notification is out, you are given around 1 or 2 months to fill up the form. When forms are filled, they verify the forms, right? And if there is some problem, they can also cancel the nomenclature, or nomination, cancel your candidature. And then you are also given this opportunity to sit for the examination, the prelims exam, mains examination, interview, and then results are declared. What is this entire structure? This is the UPSC program. Similarly, we have Election Commission program. Okay, so what does the program entail? Number one, it starts with announcement. Elections are announced. Firstly, who announces the date of election? This is done by ECI. So Election Commission officials, hopefully the Chief Election Commissioner will come in a press meeting and will give this particular date announcement. Then within within 21 days, the official notification is also released that now we are going to conduct the elections. So official notification is out. Once this is out, people who want to contest start filling their form. So this notification is done by the president or governor. After this notification, you are given some time to fill up the form. That is called nomination. So here 7 days of time is given to you, 7 days, and you can fill up the nomination. That's there. Okay. Once nominations are filled, meaning people register their names for contesting elections, like you fill up the UPSC form, that's called nomination. Then the election commission will also scrutinize the nomination. So the next stage is the scrutiny of nomination. And for that, we give 1 day to the election commission for scrutiny of nomination. 1 day where they can do what? Scrutiny of nomination. This happens after the nominations have been scrutinized by the election commission, that all the facts you have submitted are okay, form is okay, things are filled properly. Then also opportunity is given to people if they want to take back their name. If anybody wants that, no, I won't contest, I'm feeling too shy, I can't lie in public, sorry, I can't campaign properly in public so much, etc., you can take back your name, no problem. Just like UPSC, you fill up the form, but if you don't go and take the prelims examination, your attempt is not counted. Okay, so that's there. For that, 2 days of time is given to all these people. After this is over, you can withdraw your name, that I won't contest, sorry. So how do it's just behind me only. So we have with withdrawal of nomination. This happens. Once this is over, then 14 days of time has to be given before polling can start. So you will be given at least 14 days time. So this time is to be used by you for campaigning. Minimum 14 days. And then the polling begins. The polling continues for how many days? It depends on how big the state is. If it's for, say, a big state like MP, UP, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, etc., it could stretch for 5, 7, 10 days. For a small state, only 1 day. For the entire country, maybe 7, 10, 20 days. It all depends. Then eventually, the polling ends. Okay. Once the polling is over, then what happens? Then the results are declared. So the final step is declaration of results. And finally, we choose and elect who is going to exploit us who is going to govern us for the next 5 years. This is the entire election program. So this election program is fixed by the Election Commission of India. Okay, so that's there. Now, other points. Please tell me This very first point, which article is this? We have already studied this. Sayadri, Amardeep, Anshu, only 3 people with correct answer. Still, just 3 people with correct answer. Others, okay, Vipin now. Others, what is happening? While we are discussing the chapter Parliament and the chapter President, I had said that the disqualification of our MPs is mentioned under Article 102. And who decides on disqualification? The President decides on disqualification, right? But on the binding advice of the Election Commission of India. This is Article 103, not 102, 103. 102 is disqualifications like office of profit, bankruptcy, etc. 103 mentions that the disqualification will be done by the president on the advice of the ECI. Okay. Then prepare and revise the model code of conduct for parties and candidates. What is model code of conduct? MCC. It is basically ethical guidelines, how the parties will behave in the run up to elections. That's called a model code of conduct. More on this later on. Then our election commission also manages an institute that is called India International Institute of Democracy and Election Management, that is IIDEM. This is the institute that is managed by Election Commission. This is meant for training the Election Commission officials of other countries. So, a lot of Election Commission officials of other countries come to India and they want to get trained. Countries like Uganda, etc. Of course, they will only come, right? So, they get trained by us. So, this provides for a very advanced training program for EC officials. Then, examining the accounts of expenditure submitted by the candidates. So, whenever you want to contest elections, you spend some money in campaigning, you have to keep a record of all the money that you spend, okay, as a candidate and as a party also. Plus the political parties. So, how much money was spent in the campaign, etc., in elections? You have to give this record to the Election Commission. And this record needs to be submitted to Election Commission within 90 days of the Lok Sabha elections, within 75 days of Vidhan Sabha elections. Within 90 days of Lok Sabha election, within 75 days of Legislative Assembly election, you have to submit this information. Okay. Then it also decides the criteria for recognizing parties. Not just this, plus issues with respect to mergers and splits. Mergers and splits. Who decides? The Election Commission decides. That is why in the case of Shiv Sena, they have approached Election Commission, and Election Commission has or gave them initially the two different symbols and two different names, because Election Commission is the final authority to decide on such matters. Okay. Also, there is some criteria to give status to a party. For example, every political party can be of two kinds. If you get yourself registered with the election commission, only then are you fit to contest elections. So political parties can be of two kinds. You can either be a registered party or an unregistered party. What is unregistered? You are not registered, you can't contest elections. If you are registered, you can contest elections. Think along the lines. If you are, if you have filled up the form, you can sit for the exam. If you have not filled up the form, you can't sit for the examination. Now, once you sit for the examination, based on your performance, we can give you some respect. For example, if you have performed very well, right, we will recognize you. If you have not performed well, we won't recognize you. So based on performance, the parties are recognized along two lines. If the party has performed well across the country, then it will be called a national party. If the party has performed well in some state, it will be called a state party. It's just like if you clear the prelims, we'll call you prelims cleared aspirant. If you have cleared mains, we'll call you mains cleared aspirant. And then your status increases. And then you also get the right to give wrong kind of gyan to all the other fellow aspirants and ruin their career also. I mean, give the right kind of advice. So that's there. So these are the various criteria. What is the criteria we'll be discussing under your governance classes on the criteria for getting the status of a state party or a national party. Then what symbol does BJP have? Lotus. What symbol does Congress have? A palm. What symbol does Aam Aadmi Party have? A broom. All these symbols that the parties have, who has given them the symbol? Election Commission. So you cannot choose any random symbol. It's not some body tattoo that you are choosing. Okay. There's a list of symbols, around 1,000 odd symbols, basically household items. You have to choose from them only. So please pick and choose one of these symbols. And if there's any dispute, two parties claim the same symbol, Election Commission is the deciding authority. Okay. And finally, very, very important, it is the Election Commission which fixes the limit of poll expenditure. So let me clarify one thing here. No limit on political parties. So how much can a political party spend? There is no limit. Okay? No limit. But whenever the candidate is campaigning, while campaigning, what they are spending and how much they are spending, you have to keep a track of it. Very nice. But what's the point? The point is that there's a limit set. There is a rule 90 of conduct of election rules 1961. Under the rules, if you are going to contest elections, there is a limit to how much you can spend. Don't feel there is no limit, I can spend hundreds of crores. No, no, no. In case you are contesting elections to the Lok Sabha, okay? Lok Sabha, you can only spend 95 lakh rupees. If you are contesting in a large constituency, meaning the size of your constituency is big or the population is very huge, and you can only spend 75 lakh rupees if you are contesting in a small constituency. I hope this point is clear. Okay. Secondly, if you are contesting for the Vidhan Sabha, that is the legislative assembly, then you can only spend 40 lakh rupees for a large constituency and just 28 lakh rupees, just 20, okay, 28 lakh rupees if it's a small constituency. I hope this point is clear. So there's a limit to how much you can spend. Though, and these large and small constituencies are decided by the Election Commission of India. So please don't worry on what is the criteria, how many people will make a constituency large. ECI decides, let them decide. Okay, don't worry. So these are the functions performed by the Election Commission. I mean, look at the expenditure, 95 lakh rupees. That's the limit of expenditure. I mean, let's be serious, no jokes here. Maybe that's the limit. That's what is happening. But see, why should I make any kind of allegation? There's a NGO called Association for Democratic Reforms. It found out through some surveys that in 2019, in more than 80 Lok Sabha constituencies, people who were candidates had spent on an average upwards of 40 crore rupees. And mind you, that is the average spending. And only one person won the elections. And if you are spending 40 crore rupees, do you realize how much effort you have to take to recover that once you come to power? That's also there, right? So imagine this is only going to cause a problem when it comes to corruption activities. That is why look at the number of people who are crorpatis. 470 plus people who won the elections were crorpatis. The average assets of our MPs was upwards of 20 crores for these crorpatis. So when we say elections are, free and fair, they may be free. What is free? Freedom of choice. When you go to the polling booth, voting based on your own perception. You can take money from Aam Aadmi Party, BJP, Congress, DMK, everybody. But when you go to vote, you can press nota and come back. Nobody will come to know. That's free voting. But is it fair? When you say free and fair elections, fairness means equal chances of victory. Where is the equality? Somebody has 40 crore rupees, 100 crore rupees, and then you may have peanuts to spend. How will you spend? How will you match the level of campaign? That is why one former Prime Minister of India, Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he in the parliament actually made this statement. He said that every Indian politician who becomes a member of parliament begins his political career with a lie. And the lie is the limit of poll expenditure. He said it is simply impossible to limit yourself in the poll expenditure. And this 95 lakhs has been increased last year only. Before that, it was 77 lakhs. And till 2020, it was only 70 lakhs. For Vidhan Sabha, it was 28 lakhs and 20 lakhs. It has been increased recently. So that's there. Anyway, that is all as far as the functions of Election Commission are concerned. In case you want to refer to the chapter, the book on Lakshmikant, Election Commission is chapter 42. So you can refer to chapter 42 also for Election Commission. Chapter 42. And as far as important articles are concerned, there is only one article that is important, Article 324. That's it. We are done with Election Commission. Please solve this question. Asked in 2017. Oh. I'll give 30 seconds. Should be sufficient. %89% mark the answer correct. Let's see. The Election Commission of India is a 5-member body. Of course, this is wrong. It's a 3-member body as of now. So one is wrong. Remove one. Oh, okay. Union Ministry of Home Affairs. Really? Home Affairs decides the election schedule. Imagine Amit Shah deciding election schedule. Unlikely, right? We know what will happen. So 2 is wrong. And if 2 is wrong, you can remove C also, B also, in fact A also, and you get the right answer. 3 is the right answer. Election Commission resolves disputes relating to splits and mergers of recognized political parties. In fact, just to tell you, some of the countries where we don't really have the Election Commission conducting elections, like say in UK, USA, right? The Election Commission there in USA, you have the Federal Election Commission, but it only looks into expenditure. The elections are actually conducted by the government only. Same goes for UK, right? So that's there. In fact, if you think of it, the Election Commission of Pakistan, if we can call Pakistan a democracy, if by any means possible, let's assume, because they have an election commission, the Election Commission of Pakistan actually comprises of retired Supreme Court judges, right? So that's also there. Highly independent, but we know the quality of elections in Pakistan. So it may not always be the case that, if the Election Commission is very, very independent, the elections will be very fair. May not always be the case. Okay, MP MLA spend crores of rupees for winning elections, then how they spend this much if there's limit imposed? Shalu, such an innocent question. How are MPs, MLAs spending so much? They are spending but are not telling others. You can lie also. Please understand, that's possible. Right? So they lie. That's it. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's take a quick break. After the break, we'll take up for discussion RPA 1950 and RPA 1951. But before that, don't run away. Hear me out. Now, we have two laws, RP 50 and 51. Right? Very simple. As far as RP 1950 and 51 are concerned, why do we have two laws? A lot of people may ask this question, sir, why do we have two laws? Why not only one law? I would like to respond in the same manner as the former Chief Election Commissioner S.Y. Qureshi responds in his book, The Great March of Democracy. He says, I was also asked this, not me, S.Y. Qureshi. He is also been asked this question, why do we have two laws, RPA 50, RPA 51? RPA stands for Representation of People's Act, RPA. To which S.Y. Qureshi, the former Chief Election Commissioner, responds, I don't know. If the former Chief Election Commissioner does not know why we have two RPAs, don't expect a polity faculty to know why we have two RPAs. No, I mean, if you want me to create some answer, I can simply say, RPA 1950 deals with different matters, matters of allocation of seats, etc., and voting matters, voter matters. And RP 51 deals with matters of candidates and the actual conduct of elections. But these two laws have been passed at separate times, and hence two laws are there. There is no underlying hidden agenda behind it. These two laws deal with different matters. Anyway, let's take a break, a small break. Be back in 10 minutes, 3:40, and we'll continue our discussion on RPA 1950 and 1951. Break, please. Let's begin. Ankit, who decides disqualification of MPs? Sometimes these questions give me a kind of a heart attack only. We have discussed the disqualification of MPs decided by the president and governor in case of the disqualification is on the grounds of office of profit, bankruptcy, unsound mind, and not being a citizen. If it's anti-defection law, by the presiding officer. Okay. Any other question? What do we have? No, Sakshi, it is not required to learn all the sections. Sahyadri, it's the president only. Okay, let's begin now. The important provisions, of RPA 1951. First up, please mug up this. What does RPA 1950 contain? RPA 1950 deals with provisions like allocation of seats, provisions like delimitation of constituencies, qualification of voters. It also deals with the aspects of preparation of electoral rolls, right? So these are the topics that the or manner of filling seats in the councils. So these are the topics that the RPA 1950 deals with. RP 1950 is classified along 5 different parts. It has lot of sections. Most sections are of no concern to us, so please don't worry that we have to mug up these sections. Not at all. Anyway, RP 1950 is not the RP from where questions are asked, so we don't have to worry at all on RP 1950. Let's see some basic provisions. This slide, you know all the information. I'll tell you how. Allocation of seats. Tell me the number of MPs from each state in the Lok Sabha. What is Lok Sabha? House of People. Number of MPs from each state in the Lok Sabha is mentioned where? This is mentioned under Schedule 1 of RPA 1950. Schedule 1 of RPA 1950. Now, reservation of seats for SC/STs for Lok Sabha. Again, this is also mentioned where? In the same Schedule 1. How many seats are there in the legislative assemblies? How many seats are there for MLAs in your state? Where is it mentioned? Schedule 2. This is mentioned under Schedule 2 again of RPA 1950. How many seats are given to every state in the legislative councils? This is mentioned under Schedule 3 of RPA 1950. One small question. How many MPs are there from your state in Rajya Sabha? Allocation of seats to Council of States. Where is that mentioned? Please tell me. Write the answer. Don't waste time. How many MPs are there from your state in the Rajya Sabha? This is mentioned where? Which law, which rule, which schedule? Okay. So allocation of seats in Rajya Sabha, this is mentioned under Schedule 4 of the Constitution of India, right? Not RPA. Okay, so that's there. Then types of officers that we have to conduct the elections. So at every state level, see, all these are basically IS officers only. Election Commission hardly has their own staff. So at every state level, the topmost officer that you have is a chief electoral officer. Below them, you have district election officers. Below them, you have returning officer. Who is a returning officer? Returning officer is appointed by Election Commission for a constituency. So basically, returning officer is that person whose task is to conduct the elections in a constituency. And these are IAS officers. To just tell you, if the election is for Lok Sabha, it will be district magistrate. If the election is for the Vidhan Sabha, it is the sub-divisional magistrate, SDO, SDM, right? People like you. So let's hope when you clear the exam and go to a state, elections are not pending, because then you will immediately be given the task to conduct elections. Here you are not able to understand RPA, and then you'll have to conduct the elections on your own, manage the elections in an entire area on your own. Okay, so that's there. Returning officer. Achha, why are they called returning officer? Returning returning officers, because they are returning to the constituency a winning candidate. Hence the word returning. Who are they returning? They, of all the people who fought the election, they are returning to the people of the constituency the winner. Hence they are called returning officers. Anyway, beyond that, there is also one very important element. One simple question. A poll. Please mark A if you have voted in the elections, any election. Mark B if you have never voted in the elections. Let me see how many of you know what things happen in the polling booth. A if you have voted. Oh, great. 2/3 people have voted, so you would know. Others who have never voted, have faith in me. You have no other alternative also, right? So please, whatever I say, you have to fully believe me. So every constituency is divided into small areas, small colonies called booth. Every booth can have maximum 1500 voters only, not more than that. Though it is subject to change. Like in the case of Punjab elections, they had reduced it to 1200. And ideally, Election Commission says, ideally, that every voter should have a polling booth within the range of 3 to 4 kilometers. Within range of 3 to 4 kilometers from voter, so that the voter need not travel long distances. Now, this is not some guarantee. Don't go and start measuring with vernier calipers that, oh, this is 4 kilometers, 10 centimeters. I mean, if the constituency is very large, very sparsely populated, we cannot have so many polling booths. But ideally, they want that you need not travel long distances to go and vote. So voting will be made easier for you. That's the point. Now, When you go to a polling booth, in every polling booth, there's a boss, the head. That person is called presiding officer. So there is one presiding officer for each polling booth. Okay? The presiding officer is the one who is in charge of that small polling booth in that area. And it is this person's responsibility to conduct the elections in a free and fair manner in that polling booth. Things go wrong, ECI will punish this person only. Number two. Now, this when you have gone to a polling booth, you must have seen there's somebody who verifies your voter ID card, somebody who puts ink on your finger, right? Those people are called polling officers. Polling officers, their task is to help the presiding officer, right, in the conduct of elections at one polling booth. Okay. Now, all these presiding officers and polling officers, they are not some election commission employees and all. They are government employees. Who are these people after all? They are bankers, teachers, government employees. Okay. And these people are all selected by RO. Who is an RO? Returning officer. RO. Returning officer. So imagine the power you will get. You will start allocating duties in your constituency. You have complete authority in choosing these people, right? So you will allocate duties. So if you have any kind of anger towards any banker, you had gone to some bank and the banker misbehaved with you, give him a difficult election duty. It's possible. But anyway, or you want to take out some anger on some government employee, difficult duty, right? So all these things are there. Any kind of regulation of what a booth should be like and all, election commission makes regulations and guidelines, and you, the returning officer, has to follow those guidelines. Okay. Now, one very important information for you. See, there is this concept that we saw under functions also, that election commission has been given the task to do what? To update the voter list. Now, do you think the election commission's chief election commissioner will go door to door and tell how many people have turned 18, tell their names? Is it possible? There are 1.4, 141 crore people in this country. So, of course, it's not possible. So, election commission thought how to ensure fairness in updating the voter list, because we know very well the voter lists are very impure. I mean, they are dead people, names never removed. People who have turned 18, names not added. People who have left the constituency, names not there, right? Somebody else goes and votes on your behalf. Have you seen the movie Sarkar starring Vijay? So you know very well. Now, election commission thought, let's do one thing. They introduced a concept called booth level officer. This was introduced in 2006. The task of this person is to update the voter list. Update the voter list at the booth level. Okay. So basically, they collect the actual field information, registration forms, update the voter list. So think of BLO as the representative of ECI at the grassroots level. And they are basically government employees, PSU employees, local body employees who are made BLOs, right? They are the ones who are BLOs. And we popularly call them as a friend, philosopher, and guide to the local people in the conduct of elections. So that's there. So it is just a way for election commission to ease their task by trying to allocate responsibilities and duties which they cannot manage on their own to other people who are government employees. Because see, a government employee is under the control of election commission, right? Because while being a government employee, if you get involved in any kind of hanky-panky activity, any kind of malpractice, then the election commission can give a negative remark in your service record, which can be used later on to maybe suspend you, maybe start an inquiry against you, maybe reduce your rank, demotion, deny you promotion. All these things can be done. So every government officer is worried about only one thing: their job security, right? So if you try to play around with their job security, they go crazy. That is why the best way to ensure fairness in updating voter list is to give this task to some government employee. If there's any kind of malpractice, catch their collar, punish them. Okay, that's there. Now, types of voters. So in our country, we had three, now we have four. So these are the three types of voters that we have. One is this voter, the general voter, right? General voter, Aam Aadmi. Second are service voters. We'll discuss who they are. And third, NRI voters. Do you know NRIs? Those people who, when they come back to India, they have a changed accent suddenly. NRIs, non-resident Indians. So NRIs are not foreigners. They are Indian citizens only. It is just that they have been living outside the country for more than 182 days. So anybody who does not or who resides in India for less than 182 days is called an NRI. Okay. So they are also Indian citizens. They get the right to vote. There is the fourth category which has been added recently. That's why we'll look at it separately. This category of voters is called absentee voter. Okay. Now, so these three types of voters. Voter number one, general voter. What is a guideline for a general voter? A general voter, people like you and me, we have to go to the polling booth and be physically present. So there's only one option for us: physical voting. Number two, second category of voter, service voter. Now see, service voter can be, Ranjan, there is nothing called remote voting right now. It is just a plan. I'll come to that shortly. Don't worry. There is no option of remote voting and all. Okay. It's just under discussion right now. Service voter. Who is a service voter? Service voters can be of three kinds. They can be people of the armed forces. So all the armed forces employees who are posted at the border, service voters, or anywhere, service voters. Any police personnel who is posted outside the state. So, while elections take place, police from other state is also called sometimes to ensure fairness. They are called service voter. And people like you, Government of India employees outside the country. So all those who will become IFS officers, you will also be a part of service voter. Look at the level of respect we are giving you. For service voter, of course, there are two options. Either go for physical voting, which may not be possible always, or you can choose postal ballot. What is postal ballot? Postal ballot means, as the word suggests, you are given a piece of paper, a form, you fill up the form, mark your preference, and send it to Election Commission's office. That is called postal ballot. You mark your vote by way of courier, post. Okay. If you don't want postal ballot, you can also go for proxy. Proxy also. Remember your school days, college days, when your friend marked the attendance for you, or you marked the attendance for your friend. Same thing. You can choose any person who will go and mark the vote uh, in your constituency against your name on your behalf. That's called a proxy voter. So postal ballot or proxy voting. Now, if you choose to take postal ballot, you cannot go and cast your vote physically. That's not possible. Don't say, surprise, I've come to cast my vote physically. No, no, no. Choose only one, physical or postal. In postal, you can choose proxy also. But you cannot choose between physical or postal, or physical or proxy, or both. Finally, pick one, stay there, because arrangements have to be made. So if you have chosen postal ballot, you cannot be allowed to vote physically. It's not possible. You have to again write to ECI, get approval, get that cancelled, and become physical voter. And it's logical also. Imagine you are a poster on the border, you will come physically and vote. Leave the country, forget that, forget war. Let's vote first. Important is to protect the country. Same thing, you are an IFS officer, foreign posting. Will you leave the diplomatic assignment and come back to vote? That's too much. So proxy or postal ballot. Third category of voters are the NRIs. Okay. So NRI voter. Who are these people? As I said, NRIs are those people who are Indian citizens but don't live in India. Okay. So NRIs, what option do they have? Of course, physical voting. But NRIs have also been given a very interesting option. That is called, see, physical voting for NRIs. If you are living in Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, etc., it's very easy to come, very cheap. But if you are living in Australia, Finland, Denmark, Germany, USA, spending 1 lakh rupees to come and vote and then going back, let's be reasonable. That's too much of an expectation. I understand nationalism and all, but we have to be logical as well. So there is also an option of e-postal ballot. E stands for electronic. So what is this e-postal ballot? Online voting, right? Not online voting. Don't even think online voting is possible. This is not Indian Idol. If we start an online voting system, the site will be hacked in minutes. Pentagon sites are hacked in minutes. Forget about our election commission website. So that's not possible. Online voting as of now is not possible. E-postal ballot actually means that, let's say you're an NRI sitting in Australia, you will be made available the ballot paper form online. So a PDF will be sent to you where you can download the form. That's called the electronic part. That's it. Download the form, take a print out, okay, mark your preference and send to Election Commission of India, right? Your registered office, wherever you have to send the vote. That is called e-postal ballot. So e-postal ballot is just the electronic part, is just downloading of the form. That's it, nothing else. But sadly, this e-postal ballot is yet to be implemented. This provision yet to be implemented. An e-postal ballot Aniket, there is nothing like e-postal ballot. It's not there only. It is just e-postal ballot was just a judgment of Supreme Court. So this basically Supreme Court instructed the Election Commission to incorporate e-postal ballot. Okay. Instructed ECI to incorporate in 2015. This was the Nagendra Chindam case of 2015, where Supreme Court said that we should give the NRIs some kind of alternative. Expecting them to come back and vote is a bit too harsh, and rightfully so. That is why we have this concept, but Election Commission says we need to make modifications in laws. We need to also look into the logistic issues and all. What if there's a delay in the postal courier service and all coming from various countries? We don't know. We can't take care of it. So on the ground of logistic issues, they have not implemented it. Okay. So it is yet to be implemented. So currently, the NRI voter has only one option. What is the option? Come back to India and vote. No alternative. Fourth category of voters, which is a recent addition, the fourth category is the absentee voter. This has been since 2019. So I think on the 2nd of September 2019, this modification was made. And we now have the new category of absentee voters. These voters are allowed a postal ballot. So, postal ballot. Now, who are absentee voters? Number one, any person who is employed in the delivery of essential services, delivering essential services, doctors, etc. Or number two, persons with disabilities, PWD, persons with disabilities. Or senior citizens of the age 80 or above. Senior citizens above 80 years. Okay, these people are called absentee voters, and they have only one option: postal ballot. Okay, you get a form 12D from Election Commission's office, nothing downloading and all. You get the form from there and then fill the form. Okay, that's the only way to use postal ballot. So that's the postal ballot aspect of absentee voter. Okay, recent phenomena. And just to point this out, to get registered as a voter, if you want to be registered for registration as voter, what is required? Of course, you have to be a citizen of India. Only citizens can vote. Number two, age, that is 18 and above. Number three, you have to also be an ordinary resident of that area. Ordinary resident. Okay, you're a migrants. Yes, they are all general voters. So all the migrants who go to various places, why just think on those lines. Every student who leaves the hometown and goes and studies somewhere else, college students, every person who's working in this IT sector, a lot of people come to work in Bangalore, come to work in Chennai, Hyderabad, Pune, Delhi, etc. From various parts of the country. They are all migrants. They're all general voters. If you want to vote, go back and vote. No alternative. I know it sounds very harsh, right? But the whole point is that what is the alternative? So election commission also feels that if we give too many alternatives, it will become very difficult for us to manage things, right? So that's there as far as our voters are concerned. Are you clear? Now, coming to a very, very important, Sakshi, there is nothing called remote voting. Where are we getting this idea from? What is remote voting? Voting from a different place? There is nothing called remote voting. Couple of months back, Election Commission of India has tried to rope in the people from IIT, and they say IIT Madras to be exact, and they are using blockchain technology, and they are trying to map the population of all the migrant workers for deploying remote voting machines. So as of now, this is just under discussion stage. It is not very easy to have all these changes overnight. Using blockchain technology, you have to be very, very sure. It is a democratic process, right? So it will take a lot of time. You have to be 100% sure. A foolproof system, no errors. Okay. And only then can you launch this kind of project. So it's just under discussion right now. I hope this point has been clarified now for remote voting. Okay. So Election Commission and IIT Madras are working on using blockchain technology for remote voting. That's it. It's just under the very initial stages. Once it's finalized, we'll have remote voting. Okay. Now, one more thing. Now coming to a very, very important element. And that element is the denial of voting right. Firstly, right to vote. How do you get the right to vote? As an Indian citizen, do you get the right to vote? Of course. Where is it mentioned? This has been the biggest misconception, that Constitution gives us the right to vote. No, it does not. Constitution does not provide us with the right to vote. Right to vote comes from a law called RPA 1951. Now, please hear me out. We are discussing RPA 1950 only, but because we were discussing types of voters, I have just added one important element from RPA 51. That's it. So this is RPA 51 only, not 1950. There's a section 62 under RPA 51, which allows the citizens whose names are mentioned in the voter list to vote. So voting comes from RPA. It's a law. That is why voting is a statutory right. It is not neither a constitutional nor a fundamental right. This was upheld by Supreme Court in the Anukul Chandra Pradhan case of 1997. Now let me clarify if you have any doubts. The same thing was said by Supreme Court in the Kuldeep Nair case 2006. A 5-judge constitutional bench has said that voting is a statutory right. Now, in 2017 case, which just happened recently, Ashwini Kumar Upadhyay case, a 3-judge bench, Justice Chandrachud gave his opinion. He gave his opinion, not the judgment. He gave his opinion. Understand my words. That right to vote should be a fundamental right. But it was just his opinion, because a 5-judge bench has given a judgment. If you have to change that judgment, you have to have at least a 7-judge bench. Okay. Again, in the Anup Barnwal case, 2023, a 5-judge bench said that voting should be a constitutional right. But here also, Supreme Court has not given its judgment, it gave its opinion. And they left the matter for a bigger bench to decide in future. So when I am telling you all these things, it's all backed by facts, not some random rumors here and there. Okay? So voting is a statutory right. I hope this point has been understood by everybody. So whatever anyone says, always understand, when Supreme Court judges express their opinion, that is not a part of judgment. Okay? Every judge has a right to express their opinion. They are fully free to express their opinion. And that is why the opinions are not a part of judgments. Difference. Okay. So let me clarify here. In bracket, I'll write the two judgments which give us the right to vote as a statutory right. The very first one was the Anukul Chandra Pradhan case. So I'll say AC Pradhan for your easy understanding. AC Pradhan 1997 plus, more important, a constitutional bench, Kuldeep Nair 2006. Okay, so this is what is section 62. Now to further clarify, article 326 only gives us the right to be a part of voter list. Registering yourself as a voter and voting are two different aspects. Just because your name is in the voter list does not give you the right to vote. Okay? Your voting right can be restricted. We'll see shortly. That is why section 62 says that all the citizens whose names are entered in the voter list of any constituency shall be entitled to vote. So right to vote in our country till date is a statutory or a legal right. It is neither constitutional nor fundamental right. If a judge wants to express his opinion, so be it. If they give a judgment, we'll modify our stand. But as of now, that's it. Number two, you are not allowed to vote more than once. You can vote only once. Number three, you are not allowed to vote from multiple constituencies. Of course, one person, one vote. You can't vote in one constituency and run to the other constituency and vote there also. And number four, you are not allowed to vote if you are under the lawful custody of the police. What does this mean? Lawful custody of the police. See, what is lawful custody of police? Lawful custody of police can be of two kinds. Either in jail or in the police lockup. So either you are detained by the police or you are in the jail. Jail, if you are in jail, we call that judicial custody. Why do we call jail judicial custody? Because the judge has the right to send you to jail. The police cannot jail you, not allowed. Judge can send you to jail. Number two, the police lockup, that is called police custody. If you have been detained by the police, where will police keep all the criminals for a temporary period? In the police lockup. So that's there. Now, one more very important element here is that if you are in jail, you can't vote. But in jail, we have convicts also, under trials also. Can an under trial vote? No, you can't vote. So if you are in a lawful custody of police, voting rights not there for you. Whether you have committed a crime or not, no concern. Now, let's come back to RPA once again, 1950. So that's over. Disqualification from voting. How can somebody be disqualified? How can somebody's voting right be taken away? So this is section 16 RPA 1950. Of course, if you are not a citizen, sorry, your voting rights can be taken away. You don't get the voting right only. If you are of unsound mind, how can we expect you to vote properly? Not possible. Number three, if you are convicted of following offenses. So under IPC section 171E, if you are convicted of the offense of bribery, then you will not be allowed to vote. 171F, if you are found to be impersonating in the election. What is impersonation? So you get the chance to vote on your own behalf, right? But if you go and vote on somebody else's behalf, that is called impersonation. That is why to prevent impersonation, we have various tools. What do we have? How do we prevent this from happening? Okay. Number one, EPIC. What is EPIC? Voter ID card. Voter ID card is actually called EPIC, Electoral Photo Identification Card. So the correct term is EPIC, but the casual term is voter ID card. So from now, please use the term EPIC. Voter ID card is used by common people. You are legends. Use EPIC. Confuse everybody. Second thing, when you go to vote, indelible ink is marked on your finger. Indelible ink. That silver nitrate compound is there, which turns black, right? And you'll be proud to know that that silver nitrate compound is actually manufactured in Karnataka. There's a company called State PSU called Mysore Paints and Varnish Limited. That company manufactures the ink, right? So this is indelible ink. Now, whenever you are going to cast your vote, firstly, what happens? The person at the polling booth, the polling officer, will verify your photograph with the voter ID card, right? The face with the photo there, it never matches because our worst photograph is in the voter ID card only, right? That's there. So that is why we say, we'd never look as good in the Instagram photos and we are not as bad as in the voter ID card photos also. And then ink is put. If you're a proxy voter, then along with the certificate you have for proxy voter, the ink is put on the middle finger for proxy voter. Okay. So for voters voting on their own behalf, index finger. For voters voting on the behalf of somebody else, middle finger, right? I don't want to show that finger. Understand the point here, please. Okay. I don't know why middle finger. Our election commission officials had no such ulterior motive. They just chose the next finger, and by chance it is the middle finger of the left hand, not the right hand. Anyway, so if you are caught bribing anybody, so please, when you bribe people and you are jailed for that, voting rights are taken away from you. Number three, section 125 of RPA 1951. Under this, if you are booked for an offense of promoting enmity between various groups, basically, if you are giving hate speeches between groups, okay, voting rights gone. Section 135, if you go to the polling booth and try to remove the ballot paper only from there, removing ballot paper. Section 136, if you try to destroy or tamper with the voting equipment. What is the meaning of this? Let's say go inside the polling booth and try to hit the machine. Voting rights can be taken away. Don't do all this. Let's say you're a very emotional voter. You go to the polling booth and say, I love my party. I'll press the button 10 times very quickly and 10 votes will get registered. And you try to press the button 10 times very quickly. Sadly, only one vote gets registered. And if the presiding officer sees you doing all this nonsense, he can report and your voting right can be taken away. So please don't misbehave inside the polling booth. It is not your science lab. Please behave there. Otherwise, no voting rights for you. Okay? So these are all ways in which voting rights can be taken away. Apart from this, if you are ever held guilty of any corrupt practice, if you are ever held guilty of a corrupt practice, now what is a corrupt practice? Corrupt practice has a definition. This is defined under section 123 of RPA 1951. There is a proper definition of corrupt practice. So that is called corrupt practice. It is not basic corruption. Okay? And if you are held guilty, then your voting rights can be taken away for maximum 6 years. Now, mind you, all these are not permanent. Of course, it depends on the judiciary and the judgments, the duration of punishment, etc. So these are not permanent denial of voting right. The only permanent denial of voting right is not a citizen. Till you are not a citizen, you can't vote. And finally, if you are under the lawful custody of the police, meaning in jail, the only exception is PDL. What is PDL? Preventive detention laws. So ignore this for now. We'll discuss this under rights, but just to tell you all this point, sometimes even if you have not committed a crime, the police can arrest you because the police feels you may commit a crime. That is called preventive detention. We are detaining you to prevent you from committing a crime. Just like, how when our parents in our childhood days, when they used to go out of the city for some days or out of the house, they would slap us properly first. So that once they go, we'll behave properly. Same thing. So to prevent somebody from committing a crime, we are arresting the person. That is called preventive detention. Ignore that. That's the only exception. If you've been arrested in that fashion, then the police has to take you to the polling booths and allow you to vote. Otherwise, no. If you are in the jail, you are in the police custody, police lockup, no voting. Either you are a convict or you are under trials. Very sad, right? Under trials. They have not even committed a crime. What kind of nonsense is this? How can you take away the under trials voting right? But that's the reality as of now. So under trials also not allowed to vote. In fact, if you look at some countries, say Canada, Spain, Switzerland, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Ireland, South Africa, Latvia, Croatia, so many countries, France. In these countries, people who are convicts, convicted of a crime in jail, they are also allowed to vote. And in our country, we are not even allowing the under trials to vote. People in jail, people under police custody can't vote. See, this has been debated a lot. And election commission says, or the government rather says, that the government rather says that as far as the voting rights are concerned, when it comes to under trials, we have logistic and administrative issues. What's the meaning of that? See, one alternative can be we can place the EVMs in jail. Alternative. Now that is not possible because number one, prisoners can destroy EVMs. Number two, all the prisoners who come from various parts of the country will vote in one place only. That will change the dynamics of voting in that constituency. In fact, the prisons are under the control of the state government. There is no media inside. So the state government can simply ask the jailer, come on, use your stick. Every vote should come for my party. Misuse can happen. What is the other option? You ask all the prisoners under trials, please go home, vote, and then come back. That is not likely to happen. Or you will say, sir, let's go for a postal ballot. Now, the cost of postal ballot will have to be borne by the government. That's why the government says it's administrative issue, logistic issue, financial constraint is there. We cannot allow the people in jail to vote. That is why you can't vote. But under trials can contest elections. In fact, convicts can also contest elections, subject to certain criteria. So in jail, you're allowed to contest election, can't vote. And in 2013, Supreme Court had given a judgment, the Jan Chaukidar case. In that case, Supreme, now it's very old news, not important for us. In the Jan Chaukidar case, Supreme Court said that people who are in jail, you can't vote. If you are not a voter, you are not an elector. So if you're not an elector, you can't contest. Remove this qualification. Can't contest elections. When this judgment was passed by Supreme Court, immediately within 3 months, so this judgment came, I think, in June or July. In September 2013, Supreme Court, the Parliament immediately amended RPA. The RPA Amendment and Validation Act was passed. And Section 7, Section 43, Section 62 were modified. And the people in jail were allowed to contest elections. See, this is very logical also. Don't feel bad. Very simple. Let us say people in jail can't contest. Okay, let's assume that. Now, this is prone to misuse. How? Let's say from tomorrow, nomination filing date starts and it goes on for 7 days, small window of 7 days. I am the government, ruling party in my state. I'll ask the police, arrest all the top leaders, send them to jail, keep them in police lockup. Leaders arrested. Now they're arrested, they can't file nomination. After 8 days, when the nomination is over, I'll ask the police, release them, let them go. Window is over, you can't contest. So this was prone to misuse. That is why under trials can contest, can't vote. And surprisingly, people out on bail, they can vote. But people in jail, they can't vote. So sometimes, these things do have their own funny side of it. But to ensure uniformity in the provisions, to ensure logical provisions, to ensure reducing the misuse, we have these elements incorporated. So there was this Jan Chaukidar. It's a very old case now. It's of no concern to us. Anyway, just this statement. However, people in jail are allowed to contest, of course, subject to eligibility. If they are eligible, they can contest. Being in jail is not a disqualification factor to contest, not to vote. So that is all as far as the voting rights are concerned. And this is all that is going to be important for us as far as RPA is concerned. Now we'll move on to RPA 1951. Let me see what questions we have. before we move on there? Now, convicts are also allowed to contest elections. Shiva, no official votes earlier. You vote only on the day of voting. If you are an election official on duty, you get the postal ballot if you want to, right? And that is why the returning officers will give you duty in such a fashion that it does not clash with your voting day. That is kept into consideration. And otherwise, if you are performing election duty, you will get the postal ballot. Don't worry. Okay, what else do we have? Sir, why convict allowed to contest elections? I mean, if you are convicted of a small petty crime, say chain snatching or some other small crime where the punishment is less than 2 years, it's okay. I mean, small offense. That's there. I mean, I'm not approving of it, but that's the current law. Akula, detaining arbitrarily. I have no idea what this means, but anyway. Sushri, sir, for what reason person is kept under trial if the person does not commit crime? Sushri, to prevent you from committing a crime. That is why the name of these laws is preventive detention. Maybe because your behavior is not correct. In the previous situation, you had committed some crime. Let's say you give a hate speech, and now in your area there is some Hindu-Muslim discord. We know that you have this history of giving hate speeches. So before you can give a hate speech and further add fuel to fire, we'll arrest you to prevent you from committing a crime. Lekha. Okay, that's the irony, of course. Akula. Sir said right to vote is... See, Akula, right to vote, there's a question asked in the UPSC Prelims 2017. So for all of you as well. In UPSC, a question was asked in 2017, right to vote is what kind of right? And every informed aspirant marked the answer as legal right. But UPSC answer key was constitutional right, which is a wrong answer. We have seen UPSC also goes wrong. But what is the point now to question UPSC? That is why we have ignored it. Such minor mistakes will always happen with UPSC answer key. That is why don't hover near the cutoff, score 120 marks, be on the safer zone, right? These minor mistakes will happen. But as I have given the judgments and I have made the observations very clear, I gave the latest judgment 2 months back also. So voting is just a statutory right. Abhinav, yes, judicial custody actually means lawful custody of police, jail. Yes, trials are allowed. What happens if legal right is violated? You can go to High Court, no problem. Nitin, disqualification is temporary. Shallow, statutory, and legal are the same thing. We'll discuss this under rights. Don't worry. It's the same thing. Okay, we are done here. What else? How many proxy voters? How many do you want? Just one is allowed. Bribery in any sense possible, Mandeep? Is it important for prelims? Maybe. Because we have seen lot of times where at least from RPA 51, UPSC has been asking questions in prelims. Basic ones only, but they have. So some information or some idea should be there. Otherwise, in mains, they are blatantly asking you sections of RPA, some questions. We'll come to that shortly. Yes, Aniket, violation of statutory rights are also enforceable in the court of law, in the lower courts, in the high courts, of course, appeal in Supreme Court. Yes, Shalu, I had mentioned that very statement only. That example, medical professionals like nurses, doctors, etc. Nitesh, I would still suggest right to vote, you write legal right. Otherwise, it's your own choice. I have given you facts. Shalu, police ask permission from judge for judicial custody. Why will police ask judge for judicial custody? Police will ask judge for remand, police custody. What happens if you don't vote? Nothing happens. Sit and enjoy. 2024 is election year, so possibilities are high. Uh, Not really. Elections happen every year in some state. So this topic is any which way important. In the last 4 years, they've been asking questions every year, despite no elections. So this is a very unique topic, which is very important. Ravi, this will be addressed on the very first day of discussion of fundamental rights. Nitesh, that is just to get registered so that time is not wasted. Otherwise, voting only starts at 18. So if you apply beforehand, it will be easy and you will get the EPIC or the voter ID card before you turn 18 so that you can vote as soon as you turn 18. Right? Shabas, how do we make a statement here? So Shabas says, is Indian election system best? Of course, it has its own faults. But what is the alternative? It's the easiest thing to understand. You go to vote, you press the button, come out, votes are counted. Whoever gets the highest votes is the winner. Now, you may say that look at BJP, controls 300 plus seats, has only 37, 38% votes in the country. Look at Congress, 51 seats and has 19% votes in the country. That is a folly of the first past the post system. But the alternative is the proportional representation. That is difficult for people to understand. Okay. And then issues of accountability also take place there. Ankit, police custody means police lockup. If you don't know what is a police lockup, please commit some small petty crime. The police will take you there immediately. Don't worry. Don't do it. Okay, please. Police lockup. Judicial custody means jail. Lawful custody of police, Manish, includes both police lockup and jail. Anywhere where police is acting as a guard is the lawful custody of police. Yes, Priyanka, you have this option online as well. That's available. Okay, now let's come to RPA 1951. Sushri, I just said EPIC basically means voter ID card. You can Google for the full form also. EPIC is the actual name for voter ID card. Akula, I just responded to your statement. And including Jay. Guys, there is no point in pitting somebody against me. Don't do this. I have given you facts from my side, right? You are free to follow whatever facts you want to follow. Okay. I have told you 2017 questions UPSC answer also. I have told you what is the situation in the Kuldeep Nair case. I also explained what happened in the Ashwini Kumar Upadhyay case 2023 as recently as 2 months back. I also explained what happened in Anup Barnwal case 2023 as late as 1 month back. Now what more can I do? Okay. So Jay and Akula, clear? Jay, Article 320. Before you also raise this doubt, would it not be right to read the article on your own also to get an idea of what the article says? So if you read Article 326, it only tells us that people of the age 18 or above have the right to be a part of electoral roll, that is voter list. That's it. It does not give us the right to vote. So a clear reading of that article also will clarify what exactly is the meaning of the article. No problem, Akula. Jadeshwar, for service. For servicemen, what service are you talking about? If you are talking about, see, service voter only means 3 people. In India, he is a serviceman. So we say we refer to a government employee. No special feature. If you are in the armed forces, if you are in the police service serving outside the state, or if you are in the government of India serving outside the country, only then are you called a service voter. Don't impose commonly used terms on technical terms. Sir, if someone contests elections, why can't they vote? Sushri, please understand. As I said, if you are inside the jail, how to give you voting rights? Logistic issue is there. Financial it seems like I am not supporting the government. See, I am not supporting the government. I also want that people should gain voting rights. But the point is, the government's response is that inside the jail, it is difficult to provide voting rights because it will be a costly affair for the government, right? There will be logistic challenge how to provide voting right. Okay. Jadeshwar, postal ballot voting. Postal ballot voting basically refers to voting through post. You get the form 12D from Election Commission's office, mark your preference against BJP, Congress, etc., send it via post to the designated address, and your vote is registered. Clear? Now, let's come to finally RPA 1951. A very, very important RPA. In this RPA, you will find the actual process of conduct of election and details and information about that process. So as I said, mug up this information, please. What is the meaning of this? RPA 51 contains provisions dealing with conduct of elections to the Lok Sabha and the state legislatures, their qualification, their disqualification, corrupt practices, etc. Why I am saying mug up this fact is, if you get a question on RPA, which you will get, it will be very easy to write the introduction. So if you mug up this, can be used to write intro for answers. So we can use it in that sense. Okay. Now, this RPA is huge. I mean, it has over 160, 170, 160 sections to be exact. Lot of sections are there, and a lot of additions have been there. I think 180, 190 sections in total are there now. So, of course, not every section is important. What I'll be telling you is what is important, but you'll have to by heart what I'll be explaining now. So, first up, qualification and disqualification. So far, we have seen the qualification and disqualification for voter, people who vote, us. This is for candidates. If you want to contest. So I'm not sure anyone here can also be a candidate. So let me not make that statement. This is also meant for us only in case we ever change our mood and want to contest elections. Some of you will definitely, after clearing the examination, leave the job and become politicians, right? That's also possible because once you enter the system, you'll realize that the real power is being held by the politician only, right? Whatever efforts you take, that is what is a very interesting role of civil services. The role of anonymity. You are like a technician. So when you saw all these, say, RRR, the legendary scene of Junior NTR, the scene, the efforts behind the scene were largely of the VFX team. But you know the scene as, oh, NTR, amazing performance. Our politicians are like these stars, right? And you, as bureaucrats, are like technicians. You'll always work behind the scene. So people may not know your names, but they'll know the politicians only. That's a good thing also, because see, if a scheme works perfectly, the ministers will get all the bouquets, all the blessings. But if things go wrong, they are the ones who get all the brickbats also. So that is why it is largely the role of being anonymous while performing your functions. Anyway, So when you contest elections, certain qualifications and disqualifications are there, which you should be aware of. First up, qualification. Very easy. We have seen this beforehand. In case you want to become a member of the Rajya Sabha Council of States, you should be an elector. Who is an elector? Elector means voter. Voter from any parliamentary constituency. Now, before 2003, there was a provision. What was the provision? Before 2003, the provision was that if you want to contest elections and be an MP of Rajya Sabha, take the example of Nirmala Sitharaman. Nirmala Sitharaman from Tamil Nadu, she is now an MP in Rajya Sabha from Karnataka. Okay. Before 2003, if she wanted to be an MP in the Rajya Sabha, she could only represent the state of Tamil Nadu, not Karnataka. So what happened was, the election commission and government also observed that a lot of these people, they simply get a local address somewhere and say, I am from that state. Like Manmohan Singh. Manmohan Singh, he became an MP in Rajya Sabha from Assam. How? Because he got some local house on rent and said, I am a resident of Assam, and contested from there, or rather won the seat from there in Rajya Sabha. That is why in 1998 only, Ethics Committee of the Parliament gave a recommendation. Gave this recommendation that people have found this loophole, that they go to some other state, get some house on rent, and become a voter there. And then they say, my name is in voter list, I'll contest from here. So remove the criteria only. So since 2003, there is no such criteria. You can be from any state, you can be a voter anywhere, and you can contest, and you can be a member of Rajya Sabha from any other state also. No problem. RPA was amended in 2003. That was RPA Amendment Act 2003, wherein we modified the RPA and allowed people to contest and become Rajya Sabha members from any state, despite their name being in the voter list in any other state also. So no problem. Number two, qualification for membership of House of People, that is Lok Sabha. Same thing, you have to be an elector for any parliamentary constituency. Number two, if you want to contest from an SC/ST seat, then your name should be in the scheduled caste or scheduled tribe list in the country, anywhere in the country. So scheduled caste, there's a list called Constitution Scheduled Caste Order 1950. And there's a list of scheduled tribes also, Constitution Scheduled Tribes Order 1950. So if your name is in that list, meaning if the center, the parliament has categorized you as an SC or ST, only then can you contest elections from a reserved seat. Okay. What about the reservation of SC/ST in Rajya Sabha? How many seats are, please write this answer, how many seats are reserved in the Rajya Sabha for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes? Tell me quickly. Don't waste time, please. Fast. Oh, great. Not a single wrong answer. Amazing. So, of course, there is no reservation in Rajya Sabha at all for SCs or STs. Then, coming to the Legislative Council, there are two qualifications. Number one, you have to be an elector, meaning voter, not anywhere in the country, in the same state. If your name is in the voter list in the same state, only then can you contest elections for the Vidhan Sabha. So let's say if I get my name in the voter list, say in Tamil Nadu, I cannot contest elections in Karnataka for Vidhan Sabha, but I can contest elections from any constituency of Lok Sabha. Difference. Secondly, if you want the governor's nomination, remember 1/6 seats are nominated by the governor from 5 different fields: art, science, literature, social service, and cooperative movements. So if you want the governor's nomination, then you have to be an ordinary resident of that state. Now, qualification for membership of the assembly, exact same qualification. You have to be a voter in that state. Same thing, your name should be in the voter list of that state constituency. Clear? And for SC/ST, again the same thing. For SC/ST, if you want to contest elections for the reserved seat in the assembly, then your name should be in the SC/ST list in that state. Okay, so the same constitution SC order contains list of all the scheduled castes state-wise. So if your name is there in that state as a scheduled caste community, then you can contest elections on reserved seat in that particular state. This is qualification. But we are not bothered about this. What we are more interested to know is the disqualification. So what is the disqualification? See, there are various sections on disqualification. These are the sections. And let me repeat, you have to mug up all these sections. Am I clear on this point? I'm not exaggerating. You have to mug up all these sections. In the last 6 years, 4 times in the main examination, a question has been asked on these sections. I hope you're understanding the seriousness of this statement. Please mug up all these sections. Now, how is somebody disqualified? So we know very well there is an article 102. Remember 102 clause 1, not being a citizen, office of profit, unsound mind, bankrupt, insolvent. There is also a subclause E, which says that you can also be disqualified if you are disqualified by or under any law made by the parliament. If he or she is disqualified by or under any law made by parliament. So RPA is a law, yes or no? RPA 1951 is a law made by parliament. So this RPA 1951 contains some provisions which disqualify people if they are found to be guilty under any of these sections of RPA. So we'll start our discussion on the very first section, that is section 8. It has 3 subsections, 8.1, 8.2, 8.3. Let's do one thing. It'll take some time, maybe 10-15 minutes. Time is already over. Now you will come to know that Rahul Gandhi was actually disqualified under which subsection of RPA. Okay, but that after the break. Let's take a break. Be back at 5:30 and we'll continue our discussion further. Break, please.